Her boss mocks her and asks her to dance, not knowing she's facing a former professional ballerina. The music inside the glass-walled office was soft, almost shy, drifting between the two young colleagues who had never dared to look at each other for too long. She stood near the window, fingers trembling around her notebook, while he leaned back in his chair, confident, careless, unaware of the storm he was about to awaken. She never wanted him to know who she used to be. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small request. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in creating more dramatic stories for you. Where are you watching from? Tell us your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. The story continues. He stood up, smirking as though he had uncovered some secret flaw in her. "So, Elena," he said, folding his arms, "you freeze every time someone talks about dancing. Why? Too shy or too stiff?" Her heart skipped. He didn't know. He couldn't know. She stared at him. Her impossibly handsome, impossibly young boss with midnight hair and eyes that could burn through confidence if he wanted. Today he wanted. He reached over, clicked the remote, and soft classical music filled the office. "Come on," he teased, a playful challenge hiding behind arrogance. "Show me a spin. Just one. I need entertainment after these boring meetings." Her breath caught. Memories of blinding lights, velvet curtains, and roaring applause flashed inside her. Things she had buried the day her career shattered. But he didn't know that. To him, she was just shy little Elena from the admin floor. "I don't dance," she whispered. "Everyone can dance," he said, stepping closer. "Unless you're afraid I'll laugh." But when she looked up, something shifted. His voice lost its sharpness as he finally saw her eyes. Really saw them. A sadness. A history. A fire. "Elena, I didn't mean—" "You want to dance?" she breathed. Something awakening inside her, blooming like an old flame catching the wind. Her body straightened. Her chin lifted. Years of discipline rippled beneath her skin, her posture transforming right before him. He froze. "What?" She stepped into the open space and slowly lifted her arms. The moment her foot touched the floor with the silent precision of a swan returning to water, his entire world stilled. Elena moved, fluid, breathtaking. Not a shy assistant, not a girl he could tease, but a ballerina, a former star, a woman whose grace seemed carved from light. He watched, stunned, breathless, unable to blink as she spun softly, her hair catching the light like amber fire. He had never seen beauty so controlled, so fragile and powerful at the same time. And she wasn't even trying. Her eyes flicked to him mid-turn, and his chest tightened painfully. He wasn't mocking her anymore. He was falling. When she stopped, her lips carried a sad, knowing smile. "That's why I don't dance," she whispered. "Not anymore." He took a small step toward her, then another, as if drawn by gravity itself. "Elena, why did you stop?" he asked, softer than she'd ever heard him speak. Her throat tightened. The truth was a wound she never opened, not to anyone. But something in his voice, gentle, shaken, vulnerable, made her heart tilt toward him. She swallowed, looking away. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me," he said, reaching out as though stopping himself from touching her. "Everything about you suddenly matters." She felt heat rush to her cheeks. "Why? You barely knew I existed yesterday." He smiled, shy, earnest, nothing like the arrogant boss everyone feared. "Maybe that's the problem," he whispered. "Maybe I noticed you too much." Her breath hitched. He looked at her, not at her talent or her past, but at her, a young woman with secrets, with beauty she didn't see, with a heart she had locked away. "Elena," he murmured, taking another step closer, "will you tell me what hurt you?" She shook her head softly. "Not today." "Then can I at least walk you home tonight?" he asked, gently, hesitantly, like a boy afraid of the first rejection of his life. Her lips parted, stunned by the sudden tenderness in him. A slow smile bloomed across her face, unsteady, hopeful. "Maybe," she whispered, and the way he breathed out, like her one word had just rewritten his entire day, made her heart flutter for the first time in years. He smiled at her answer as if she had handed him the key to something precious, something he never thought he would earn. The air between them felt charged, warm, almost trembling. She could feel his gaze tracing every fragile breath she took, but gently, so gently it made her chest ache. He stepped back just enough to give her space, yet not so far that the invisible thread between them loosened. "I'll wait downstairs when your shift ends," he murmured, voice low, hopeful. Her heart thudded. "I didn't promise," she whispered. "But you didn't refuse," he replied, and that boyish grin, unexpected, disarming, broke across his face. She had never seen him smile like that in the office. It wasn't the mask of a boss. It was real, young, human. She looked down quickly, hiding the warmth crawling up her neck. "I should get back to work," she murmured. "Take all the time you need," he said softly, and she almost laughed. He, the strictest man in the entire building, suddenly offering her unlimited time. The irony was ridiculous and sweet. As she left the office, she felt his eyes follow her, not judging, not mocking, admiring. It terrified her. It thrilled her. Downstairs, her thoughts spun like the pirouette she had given him. Why had she done that? Why had she revealed even a glimpse of the woman she used to be? She promised herself never to return to that world, never to tempt the pain of remembering what she lost. Yet with him, something cracked. Something long frozen had thawed. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heartbeat flutter like a scared bird. "Don't fall," she told herself. Not again. Not like before. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw the wonder in his face, the awe, the softness, the unspoken pull. Hours later, when the building emptied and only the distant hum of evening remained, she walked toward the glass doors. And there he was, waiting exactly where he'd promised, leaning against his sleek black car, hands in pockets, looking up at the sky as if unsure how to keep his own nerves calm. Her steps slowed without permission. He straightened the moment he saw her, his lips parting slightly, relief washing over him like he had been holding his breath since she left his office. "You came," he breathed. "I'm only walking," she said quickly, though her voice betrayed her. He opened the passenger door for her. "I meant walking you home," he said with a soft laugh, stepping aside. "Unless you don't want me to." She bit her lip. His eyes met hers, not demanding, not assuming, just waiting, and something inside her loosened. "Fine," she whispered, slipping into the seat. When he closed the door, her chest tightened. This was the first time she had ever sat beside him outside the office. Here, without the harsh lighting and formal tension, he looked younger, less like a man burdened with authority, and more like a boy trying hard not to show how much he cared. As he started the engine, he glanced at her. "Are you nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "You don't have to be," he whispered. "Not with me." She almost smiled. "You weren't exactly comforting earlier." "I was an idiot earlier," he confessed, cheeks flushing. "If I could take it back, I would." "You didn't know," she said quietly. "I should have," he murmured. "I should have seen you." Heat rushed up her throat. He was doing it again, speaking in ways that felt too real, too close, too dangerous. They drove through glowing city streets, the night wrapping around them like a dim velvet cloak. Neither spoke for a few minutes, but the silence wasn't awkward. It was charged, like both were afraid that one wrong word would shatter the fragile beginning forming between them. Finally, he exhaled. "You were incredible." She looked at him sharply. "Please don't." "I'm not flattering you," he said. "I'm still trying to understand what I saw. I've never seen anything so beautiful." Her breath hitched. Beautiful. No one had called her that since the accident, since the stage, since her world collapsed. She shook her head. "Don't romanticize it. It's just a skill." "No," he whispered, voice tightening with something raw. "It's you. It always was." Her fingers curled slowly against her knees. "Why are you being like this?" He let out a small, helpless laugh. "Because I don't know how else to talk to you anymore. Not after today. Not after realizing you're so much more than I ever imagined." She turned to the window, hiding the tremble of her lips. This was dangerous. His words, his tone, the sincerity was all too much. You're my boss, she reminded softly. He swallowed. And if I wasn't? Her heart dropped. Fear and desire clashed violently inside her. If you weren't, she whispered, I wouldn't be sitting here pretending I'm not dreaming. The car slowed slightly. Elena! His voice was hoarse. Look at me. She didn't want to. She did. When her eyes met his, everything inside her unraveled. He looked at her with a tenderness so deep, so genuine. It stirred something she never planned to feel again. He leaned a little closer, just enough for his breath to warm her cheek. I don't want to be just your boss anymore, he murmured. I don't want distance. Not after today. Not after seeing that fire in you. Her pulse raced. Don't say things you don't mean. I mean every word, he whispered. She closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. She was falling, fast, dangerously, beautifully, and the way his fingers brushed the wheel, tense with restraint, told her he was falling too. Traffic slowed near a quiet intersection, glowing under soft streetlights. He pulled over gently, turning off the engine. The sudden silence made the world feel too intimate. Elena, he whispered. Yes. Can I tell you something without you running away? She swallowed. Maybe. He smiled faintly, nerves and longing mixing across his face. I've been trying not to stare at you since the day you joined the company, he confessed. Today just reminded me why I failed. Her breath caught painfully. Don't, she whispered, voice trembling. Why not? Because it feels too good, she said, barely audible. His eyes softened, darkened, warmed. Elena, it's supposed to. Her defenses cracked again. He leaned slightly closer, but didn't touch her, didn't cross a line, just hovered there, his presence like a magnetic pull she couldn't escape. Tell me one thing, he murmured. That dance, who are you dancing for? She breathed out shakily. For myself, she whispered, for the first time in years. His expression melted into something she had never seen before, admiration, longing, pride. And if, he hesitated, voice deepening, if you ever dance again, could you let me be the one who watches? Her heart fluttered wildly. Her breath trembled at his question, lingering in the tight warmth between them. The car smelled faintly of cedar, rain on steel, and something undeniably him. She knew she should look away, break the spell, remind both of them of the line they were not supposed to cross. But right now, that line felt blurred, softened by the sincerity in his voice and the way his eyes held her like a secret he wanted to protect. Why does it matter to you? She whispered. His gaze didn't waver. Because watching you move, I felt something I can't explain. Something I've never felt before. She swallowed hard, her fingers curling against her lap. Don't put meaning into something that was just muscle memory. That wasn't muscle memory, he murmured, leaning ever so slightly closer. That was passion, and pain, and courage. I saw all of it, Elena. A shiver ran down her spine, because he wasn't wrong. He had seen too much. He had seen her. She turned a window again, but this time the city lights blurred in her vision. The past pressed against her chest, the broken stage, the silent studio, the injury that had ended her dreams before she even turned 19. She had buried that world so deep she thought it would never resurface. Yet one arrogant comment from him, one dare, had awakened the ghost of who she used to be. He waited a moment, giving her quiet. Then, softly, did someone hurt you? Her breath caught. No, she whispered. Not someone. Something. He frowned gently. The accident? She stiffened. I overheard, he admitted, voice soft with guilt. HR mentioned something once, a medical leave in your past. I didn't know details. I never pried. But today, when you danced, I realized it had to be something more. She nodded slowly, staring at her trembling hands. It was supposed to be my debut, a new piece, a new world. She breathed in shakily. But the fall had destroyed everything. A torn ligament, a fractured bone, months of rehab. And even after healing, my body never felt the same. My confidence never felt the same. He listened without interrupting, without blinking, as if every word she shared was a fragile treasure. So you stopped dancing, he said softly. I stopped living, she admitted before she could stop herself. He closed his eyes briefly, a pain flickering across his expression. God, Elena. It's fine, she whispered quickly. It's in the past. That doesn't make it any less devastating, he murmured. You lost something you loved. She nodded, and I promised myself never to let anyone drag me back into that world, not even for a joke. He looked at her with regret etched deep in his features. I was cruel. I didn't know. You didn't have to know, she said quietly. Mocking someone is never kind. He flinched slightly. I know, and I'm so sorry. His apology wasn't forced or performative. It felt real, heavy, beautiful in its own way. For the first time that night, she truly looked at him, not as a boss, not as a source of pressure or arrogance, but as a young man trying, fumbling, caring more than he intended. You meant it, didn't you? She asked softly. What you said earlier, that you noticed me too much? He let out a breath that sounded like a confession. I've been fighting it for months. Her heart skittered. Why? She whispered. Because you work for me, he said, voice raw. Because I thought it would go away. Because I tried to stay professional. But then, today, seeing you like that, he shook his head helplessly. I couldn't pretend anymore. Her pulse raced painfully. And what do you want now? He hesitated only for a second, but when he answered, his voice was steady. I want to know you. I want to understand you. I want to be close to you if you let me. She felt the warmth in her chest spread like sunrise. Close how? She breathed. His gaze dropped to her lips for the briefest moment before rising again, full of restraint and longing. Close enough that you stop looking away when I look at you. She felt her breath evaporate. He leaned back a little, giving her space he wasn't sure she wanted but refused to take without permission. I don't want to scare you, he murmured. Tell me if I am. You're not, she whispered. You're just unexpected. He smiled faintly. So are you. Silence settled again, warm and shimmering. The night outside felt quieter, as if the world itself paused for them. He drummed his fingers nervously against the steering wheel. Can I ask you something else? She nodded slowly. If dancing still makes you feel alive, why hide it? She hesitated. Because the moment I dance, I'm reminded of everything I lost. And today, he asked, did dancing hurt? Or did it feel like a piece of you returning? Her eyes stung. A piece, she whispered. But that's what frightens me. His chest rose and fell deeply. Then maybe you shouldn't face it alone. She blinked at him, breath catching at the tenderness in his voice. Elena, he continued softly, whatever you're scared of, I want to help you through it. Not as your boss. As someone who... He stopped, cheeks coloring faintly, vulnerable in a way she never thought she'd see from him. As someone who cares, he finished quietly. Her heart squeezed. Why? She whispered again. Because you make me feel things I don't know how to hide, he murmured. Every time you walk into a room, I notice. Every time you look sad, I feel it. And today, watching you dance, he shook his head at a loss. I can't pretend I don't want more. Her throat tightened, emotion rising too quickly, too fiercely. You don't know me, she whispered. I want to, he breathed. For the first time in years, she didn't move away when someone reached for her, emotionally, quietly, gently. She let the moment unfold. He reached out slowly, resting his hand near hers on the console. Not touching, not assuming, just waiting. An invitation. Her fingers trembled, hovering indecisively, the past and present warring inside her. Then, soft as a sigh, her hand drifted closer, not quite touching his, but close enough that warmth met warmth. His breath shuddered. Elena, he whispered, please don't pull away. She didn't. Her fingers brushed his lightly, feather soft, electric, hesitant but willing. A tiny touch, a tiny surrender, a tiny beginning. He closed his eyes as if that single brush ignited something in him. When he opened them again, they were dark, intense, filled with a tenderness that made her heart ache. I don't want this night to end, he murmured. Her lips parted, her voice barely forming. Neither do I. He exhaled, relieved, undone. Then tell me something, he whispered. Anything. I want to know the girl behind that beautiful courage. Her heartbeat fluttered painfully, and then she began to speak. Her childhood, her first ballet class, the applause she used to live for, the silence she lived with now. He listened, truly listened, his eyes never leaving her face. And every time she paused, thinking she had shared too much, he leaned in ever so slightly, silently asking for more. The car felt like its own universe, warm, dim, full of new beginnings. And somewhere between her memories and his quiet questions, the fear inside her softened. He wasn't just a boss anymore. He wasn't just a stranger. He was someone who made the broken parts inside her feel seen, not as ruins, but as something beautiful. And as she spoke, he gently reached out, his fingers brushing hers again, this time with more certainty, more care, more longing. She didn't pull away. Her voice softened as she spoke, the shadows of her past drifting gently through the warm glow of the car. He didn't interrupt her, not once. It struck her how he leaned forward every time her voice trembled, how his hands tightened slightly as if he wished he could reach across and steady her. She had never been listened to like this, not even in the happiest moments of her old life. There was something unguarded in the way he took in every word, his eyes glowing faintly under the streetlights. When she paused, he didn't push her to continue. He simply whispered, "Thank you for trusting me with that." Her throat tightened. "It's been years since I said any of it out loud. It means even more than," he said gently. The car felt too warm suddenly, too intimate, too close. She shifted slightly, her knee brushing his by accident, sending a bolt of awareness through both of them. He swallowed, his breath hitching before he cleared his throat and glanced out the window, only to glance back at her, as though he couldn't help it. "How far is your apartment?" he asked softly. "2 more streets," she whispered. But neither of them moved to end the moment. He started the car again, slowly pulling onto the quiet road. The city around them blurred into a glow of amber lights. But inside the vehicle, time seemed to slow, stretch, soften. "Elena," he said after a moment, voice low, "I want to ask you something, but I'm afraid it's too soon." "Ask," she said before she could stop herself. His fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "If you hadn't given up dance, what did you imagine your life would look like?" She blinked, startled by the tenderness of the question. "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought I'd travel, perform, maybe teach one day. I thought I'd be someone." He looked over at her, his expression filled with something quiet and aching. "You still are someone." She laughed faintly, a small, broken sound. "Someone who files your reports?" "Someone remarkable," he corrected, his voice unexpectedly fierce. Her breath caught at the conviction in his tone. It wasn't flattery. It wasn't pity. It was belief, raw, sincere, disarming. He continued, softer now. "You survived something that would have shattered most people. You built an entirely new life from the ground up. That takes strength I can barely imagine." Her eyes stung, the words sinking deeper than she wanted them to. "You don't even know me," she whispered again. "I know enough," he murmured. "And what's that?" "That you're the strongest person I've ever met." Her heart thudded painfully at that. The car slowed as they entered her street. Quiet, lined with trees, the kind of place where the world felt small and safe. She pointed to her building wordlessly, and he parked a little distance away, beneath a dim street lamp that cast soft shadows across his face. Neither of them moved to get out. The silence was thicker now, heavy with things neither dared say. He turned to her slowly. "Can I ask one more thing?" She nodded shakily. "When you danced today, did it hurt?" She hesitated. "Yes," she whispered. "A little." He nodded, absorbing that with seriousness that made her chest ache. "And did it also feel good?" Her lips trembled. "Yes," she admitted, voice almost too soft to hear. He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath the entire evening. "That's what scared you more, isn't it? The part that felt good." She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by how accurately he saw her. "Yes," she whispered. He leaned slightly forward, his voice a warm thread wrapping around her heart. "Then let me say just one thing. Just one." Her eyes fluttered open. "You're allowed to want something again." Her breath shook. "You don't understand," she murmured. "When I lost dance, I lost myself." He reached out very slowly and brushed his fingers against the back of her hand. A feather-light touch. A question. A promise. "Then maybe," he whispered, "you're standing on the edge of finding yourself again." She stared at him, unable to speak. His eyes held so much warmth, so much sincerity it frightened her. This wasn't a game for him. She felt it in every word, every glance, every gentle movement. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice cracking. He searched her face, his own expression open and unguarded. "Because from the moment you walked into my office, something inside me shifted. I didn't understand it at first. I thought it was just curiosity or distraction. But today, when you danced," he shook his head slowly, "I realized I've been wrong for months." "Wrong about what?" she whispered. "About thinking I could keep my distance." Her heart fluttered wildly. The air grew heavier, charged with something neither knew how to name aloud yet. He held her gaze, his voice trembling with truth. "Elena, I'm drawn to you. Completely. And tonight only made it stronger." She felt her pulse roar in her ears. "I shouldn't feel this way," she whispered. "Maybe not," he breathed. "But you do. And you're my boss." "And I wish I wasn't," he admitted, his voice breaking with honesty. "Because every part of me wants to be someone you can talk to, someone you can trust, someone you look at the way you looked at me when you danced." Her breath caught. He leaned slightly closer, not enough to touch, but enough that she felt his warmth like a promise waiting just beyond reach. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, "and I will. I swear it." Her lips parted, her pulse racing. But no words came. He looked at her trembling silence and understood. Very slowly, his fingers slid beneath hers, interlacing gently. He held her hand like it was fragile, precious, like he'd never forgive himself if he held it too tightly. The moment their hands intertwined, she felt something inside her loosen, a knot she'd lived with for years. "Elena," he murmured, voice shaking, "I want to know what you're feeling right now." She turned her face toward him, her eyes shining in the dim glow of the streetlight. "I'm feeling scared," she whispered. His thumb brushed softly against her hand. "Of me?" "No," she breathed. "Of how much I'm starting to want this." His chest rose sharply, his breath catching. "Elena," he whispered, his voice dissolving into something raw and aching, "I've wanted this from the moment I first saw you smile." Her eyes widened, and I haven't stopped wanting it since. Her heart felt like it was floating, weightless, trembling, dangerously alive. "Say something," he pleaded softly. She drew in a shaky breath, her thumb brushing back against his without meaning to. "I don't want a night to end either." Something inside him broke open at her words. He didn't hide it. His eyes softened with relief, with longing, with something deeper she wasn't ready to name yet. He leaned closer, still not touching her beyond their joined hands, but his voice dropped to a whisper that warmed the space between them. "Then let it continue," he murmured. "Just stay with me a little longer." She didn't look away this time. She nodded, small, trembling, real, and the night stretched quietly around them, holding them in a moment neither wanted to escape. The soft night wrapped around them like a secret, holding them suspended in a fragile, trembling quiet. Neither of them moved, but everything inside them shifted, slowly, inevitably, like two stars drifting into the same orbit. He held her hand as if it were something new, something precious he'd never been trusted with before. His thumb made slow, careful circles against her skin, barely there touches that sent warmth up her arm and into her chest. Elena didn't know how to breathe around it. She didn't know how to steady the flutter building inside her ribs. He was watching her, really watching her, with an expression that softened each time her eyes lifted to meet his. "I keep thinking this is a dream," he murmured, voice low and unsteady. "That you'll pull your hand away and I'll wake up." She swallowed. "I'm still here." "Good," he whispered, his voice cracking faintly. "Because I wanted a moment like this without even knowing how badly." Her cheeks warmed, her heart tumbling helplessly. "You weren't supposed to say things like that." He smiled, small, crooked, too sincere. I wasn't supposed to feel things like that either. She looked down at their intertwined fingers, the way his hand dwarfed hers. It felt strange, gentle strength wrapped around delicate trembling. She didn't understand how someone who always commanded a room could be sitting here nervous, breathing unevenly, waiting for her smallest reaction. "What are you thinking?" he asked, breaking the quiet with a softer voice than she'd ever heard from him. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's been a long time since I let myself think about anything like this." He studied her for a moment. "Anything like us?" Her breath hitched. She didn't correct him. She didn't say, "You're imagining things," or "There's no us." She couldn't, because something inside her had shifted too, the part that had been locked away, silent, afraid to want. Instead, she whispered, "Maybe." He inhaled sharply, as if that one word shattered something inside him. "Elena." Her name from his lips felt like a touch, soft, reverent, warm. She felt it echo down her spine. "Does this scare you?" he asked. "Yes," she said honestly. "Does it feel wrong?" She shook her head. "No." "Does it feel right?" Her voice trembled. "Yes." A slow breath escaped him, almost a sigh of relief. "I'm glad," he murmured. His hand tightened a little around hers, not possessively, but with a longing that felt new and unsure. He leaned back slightly, never releasing her hand, just letting the moment breathe between them. "Can I ask you something personal?" he whispered. She nodded. "When you stopped dancing, did you stop believing in the possibility of anything beautiful for yourself?" The question hit harder than she expected. She blinked, her throat tightening. "Yes," she whispered after a long moment. "I think I did." He nodded slowly, like he'd suspected as much. "And tonight," he said, his voice quieter, "did something change?" She hesitated, not because she didn't know the answer, but because saying it felt too vulnerable. He gently tilted his head, his eyes soft and patient. "You can tell me." She looked at him, at his steady gaze, his gentle hand around hers, the sincerity radiating from him in a way she didn't know he possessed. "I think," she whispered, "I remember what hope feels like." His breath caught. His fingers tightened around hers again, and this time he didn't hide the emotion in his eyes. "Elena, you have no idea what that means to me," he said softly. She swallowed, unable to speak for a moment. "Why?" she whispered. "Because," he murmured, leaning closer, not touching, but close enough that she felt his warmth sink into her. "You make me feel the same." Her chest stirred with something sharp and soft at once. He looked at her lips for half a second, an unconscious, fleeting glance, before forcing himself back to her eyes, as if he didn't trust himself to take that step without her. "You make me hope for things I've never let myself want," he admitted. Her pulse hammered. "What things?" she breathed. He exhaled shakily. "Things like falling for someone I shouldn't." Her breath froze in her chest. He broke their gaze for just a moment, closing his eyes like he was embarrassed by his own honesty. Then he looked at her again, with raw, unfiltered vulnerability. "You're not supposed to be someone I think about when I wake up or when I'm trying to work," he whispered. "But I do." She felt her cheeks warm, her heart twist, her voice tremble. "You think about me?" "All the time," he said simply. She flinched at how easily he said it, how naturally the confession flowed, as if he'd been holding it back for too long. "And today," he continued softly, "seeing you dance, I realize how deeply I'm already in this, deeper than I should be. And what if I don't want you to stop?" she whispered before she could push the words back. He froze. His breath stopped. His hand tightened around hers, not harshly, but with a sudden, overwhelming tenderness. "Elena," he whispered, his voice breaking, "please don't say that if you don't mean it." She held his gaze. "I mean it." He inhaled sharply, eyes darkening with something warm and aching. The night around them seemed to hold its breath. A gentle wind rustled the leaves on the trees. A distant car passed quietly at the far end of the street. But in the car, the world felt smaller, closer, softer. "How long?" he whispered. "Have you been afraid of wanting something?" She looked down at their hands, soft light catching the delicate lines of their fingers. since the moment I lost everything. And now, she swallowed. Now I'm realizing I haven't wanted anything this much in a long time. His chest rose and fell in a shaky breath. He moved just a fraction closer, not touching her beyond her interlaced hands, but letting her feel the pull between them, warm, magnetic, undeniable. "Elena," he murmured, "I want to kiss you. So badly it hurts." Her breath trembled. Her lips parted. Her pulse drummed wildly. But he didn't move any closer. He didn't take. He waited. "Tell me I can," he whispered. "Or tell me I can't. I'll do whatever you say." She stared at him, her heart racing, her body trembling with the weight of the moment. Want, fear, hope, longing, everything tangled inside her. Her fingers curled slightly around his, as if answering before her voice could. He shuddered at the tiny motion. "Elena," he breathed, but she shook her head softly, not pulling away, not refusing, but whispering something else entirely. "Not yet," she murmured. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Not rejection, just surprise. Then relief. Then something like admiration. "Okay," he whispered gently. "Whenever you're ready. But don't let go," she said softly. He let out a breath that shook with emotion. "I won't," he promised. His thumb stroked over her hand again, slow, warm, patient. And she stayed there with him, letting the night fold around them, letting herself want, letting herself feel, letting the moment breathe without breaking it. The quiet lingered, thick and heavy, yet fragile, as if the night itself had stopped to watch them. Elena's fingers still trembled lightly against his, the gentle warmth of his touch spreading through her veins like fire on frost. She had never felt this closeness before. Not with anyone, not like this, and the thought made her chest tighten, her pulse quicken, and 1,000 emotions collide at once. He didn't speak immediately. He just sat there, close enough that the warmth of him brushed against her arm through the small gap in the seats. His eyes never left hers, and for the first time, she felt as though he could see every hidden corner of her heart. She wanted to retreat, to pull back, to protect herself from the intensity of what was happening. But something stronger held her in place. Something thrilling, dangerous, and yet impossible to resist. "Do you want to tell me more?" he finally whispered, voice low, cautious, as if even breathing could shatter the fragile spell between them. Her lips parted slightly, a small breath escaping. "About what?" she asked, though she already knew he meant her past, her dancing, her fears, her everything. "Everything you've been holding back," he said softly. "The parts of you no one's ever seen." His thumb brushed over the back of her hand again, and this time it lingered longer, like a question and an answer all at once. She looked away, out the window, letting the dim glow of streetlights wash across her face. The night felt endless, holding its breath, waiting for her to open the gate she kept locked for so long. "It's hard," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I stopped dancing because it hurt too much to try and fail, to live with the dream I couldn't have." "I can't imagine what that felt like," he murmured. "But I want to understand. And maybe if you let me, I can help you find that part of yourself again." She laughed softly, a short, breathless sound. "You make it sound so easy." He shook his head. "Nothing about this is easy," he admitted, eyes darkening with honesty. "But neither is anything worth feeling deeply. And what you just showed me tonight, that was everything I didn't know I was waiting for." Her heart fluttered violently at his words, and she instinctively leaned closer, drawn to him despite the careful boundaries she had spent years reinforcing. "And what if I fail again?" she whispered. "What if I lose again?" "Then I'll be here," he said firmly, his thumb brushing over hers in steadying motion. "I'll be here to catch you." She felt warmth spread across her chest, and for a moment she let herself believe it. Let herself imagine a world where she could dance again, where she could feel joy without fear, where someone would be beside her through it all. "Can I ask something personal too?" she said hesitantly. He tilted his head, curiosity softening his features. "Anything." "Why me?" Her voice was barely audible. "Why care so much about someone like me?" He blinked, caught off guard. Then he exhaled slowly, his expression unreadable for a moment. "Because you're you," he said finally. "Because you carry everything so beautifully, even the pain. And because I can't help but see it all, and I can't stop wanting to be part of it. Her breath caught. His words wrapped around her like a soft, irresistible force, making her chest ache with longing she had denied for too long. She looked down at their hands, still intertwined, and allowed herself to imagine what it would feel like to lean closer, to close the space between them, to finally give in to the pull she had fought for months without even knowing. She started, then faltered. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to be, he said softly. Not yet. We have time. But even as he said it, she felt the heat of anticipation coiling in her stomach, the thrill of wanting someone she had once thought untouchable, impossible, out of reach. You make it hard to think clearly, she admitted with a nervous laugh. That's the point, he said with a small grin, eyes soft but mischievous. I want you to feel it. I want you to remember that feeling, alive, aware, wanting. She exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in. There was no judgment in his voice, no pressure, just acceptance and something deeper she couldn't yet name. I forgot what that feels like, she whispered. Then maybe it's time to remember, he murmured, leaning just a fraction closer, enough that the warmth of his presence enveloped her, but careful not to cross the line she wasn't ready for. She felt her heart race, her pulse hammering against her ribcage as a shiver ran through her. And if I get scared? Then I'll stay with you, he said, voice steady but gentle. I won't let you face it alone. Not now. Not ever. Something inside her loosened at the sincerity of his words. It was frightening and exhilarating, the feeling of being seen so completely by someone she had only just begun to trust. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a side of him no one else in the office ever did. A young man raw and vulnerable, desperate to be close to her in a way that terrified and thrilled her all at once. Promise me one thing, she whispered. Anything, he said immediately. That you won't leave, she said softly, voice trembling. I promise, he said without hesitation, his eyes holding hers, unwavering. I'm not going anywhere. Not tonight. Not ever. Her lips trembled, and for the first time that evening, she let herself lean in slightly, just enough that their proximity was undeniable, their connection tangible. He noticed a movement immediately, his breath catching, and he didn't pull back. He simply mirrored her, inching closer, careful, patient, like the world itself had slowed to allow this delicate, trembling moment to stretch as long as it needed. I've waited too long to feel this, he whispered, voice breaking softly. To be this close. To you. She swallowed, every nerve alive, every heartbeat loud. I've wanted it too, she admitted, barely above a whisper. His hand tightened slightly around hers, warmth spreading through both of them like a spark catching fire. Then we'll take it slow, he murmured. We'll go one step at a time. Together. Her pulse fluttered at the gentle promise in his voice, the unspoken words hovering in the quiet between them. She could feel it. The pull, the danger, the thrill of allowing herself to finally want someone again. I'm scared, she admitted, voice breaking. So am I, he said softly, leaning even closer, their foreheads nearly touching now, the air thick with anticipation, warmth, and something neither could yet name. But we'll face it, she whispered. Yes, he said, voice a soft, reverent rumble. Together, and in that quiet, suspended night, she felt a small, fragile hope bloom inside her, the kind of hope she had thought lost forever, the kind that demanded courage, trust, and surrender. Her hand tightened around his, their breaths mingling in the warm, still air of the car, hearts beating in the same rapid rhythm, sharing something unspoken but understood. And for the first time in years, Elena allowed herself to feel alive again, to feel desire, to feel hope, and to feel something real. The car sat beneath the dim street lamp, its small engine purring quietly as if even it slowed to give them the suspended, fragile moment. Elena's fingers still trembled lightly in his grip, but she didn't pull away. Every nerve in her body was alive, buzzing with a mix of fear, longing, and exhilaration she had buried for far too long. He looked at her with a softness that made her chest ache, eyes glimmering in the faint amber light outside. It wasn't lustful or fleeting. It was something heavier, deeper, something that made her feel as if he could see through all the carefully constructed walls she'd built around herself. "You know," he said softly, "I've thought about this moment all day. The drive home, sitting here with you, it feels surreal." "Surreal?" she echoed, her voice trembling slightly. "I never imagined this would happen. Not with you." "Neither did I," he admitted. His thumb brushed over the back of her hand again, slow, tender, deliberate. "And yet here we are." She swallowed hard, letting the words settle. The warmth of him, the sincerity in his gaze, the feel of his hand. It was intoxicating, dangerous. And yet she didn't want to pull away. "I'm afraid," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He nodded slowly, his expression softening even more. "I am too," he admitted. "But sometimes fear is worth it." Her pulse raced. "Sometimes it isn't," she countered, voice trembling. "Maybe," he said, leaning slightly closer. "But tonight, I want to take the chance." The distance between them felt like a magnet pulling inexorably closer. Her breath caught when their shoulders brushed slightly, sending a jolt of awareness straight to her chest. She realized how much she had wanted this, wanted him, without admitting it even to herself. "I don't know if I'm ready," she whispered, her fingers tightening in his. "Then don't be," he murmured. "Not yet. We'll take it as slow as you need. I want to be here with you." Her lips parted slightly. "But what if this changes everything?" "It will change everything," he said, voice low and reverent. "But maybe that's not a bad thing." Her heart thudded painfully. She wanted to argue, to retreat, to protect herself. But the warmth of his presence, the sincerity in his eyes, the gentle pull of his hand against hers, it made every instinct to flee seem foolish. I don't know if I can trust myself," she admitted. "I've been hurt before. I've lost things I love more than anything." He nodded slowly, understanding etched into every line of his face. "I know, and I can't promise there won't be pain. But I can promise I'll be here, with you, every step of the way." Her chest ached at the intensity of his words. She had never felt seen like this before, not by anyone, not like him. It scared her and thrilled her all at once. She leaned in slightly, the heat from her body brushing against his. "And if I fail again," she whispered, "then we'll face it together," he murmured. "I won't let you fall alone." Her lips parted in a small gasp, her fingers curling slightly around his hand. The simple touch was electric, sending a thrill of anticipation through her entire body. She had spent years avoiding this kind of feeling, afraid, protective, closed off, but now it felt impossible to resist. He tilted his head closer, careful, patient, letting the moment stretch between them. "Elena, may I?" Her breath caught. "May you?" "To kiss you," he whispered. "When you're ready." She felt her heart jump. Every instinct screamed to flee, but another, stronger voice inside her whispered to stay, to feel, to give herself the permission she had denied for so long. I think," her voice trembled, "maybe," a flicker of relief, and something deeper crossed his face. He leaned in slowly, ever so carefully, until their foreheads nearly touched. Their breaths mingled in the warm, charged space between them. "You don't have to do anything you don't want," he murmured, soft, almost a prayer. She shook her head slightly, barely perceptible. I want this," she whispered. The word was small, but carried with it a promise, a surrender, a hope. He smiled faintly, dark eyes glimmering in the dim light, and he closed a tiny distance between them, brushing his lips softly against hers, gentle, testing, tender. Her lips parted slightly, the shock of first touch sending a ripple of electricity through her. She didn't pull away. She leaned in subtly, letting herself feel the warmth, the softness, the unexpected tenderness of it. Her hand squeezed as gently, anchoring herself in this moment in him. He lingered against her lips, slow and careful, as if afraid to break the delicate balance they had created. Each small motion was deliberate, patient, and breathtaking. The intensity of it left her breathless, heart hammering, and pulse racing in a way she had long forgotten. Finally, he pulled back slightly, their foreheads still touching, breaths mingling in the intimate glow of the streetlight. "Are you okay?" he whispered. She nodded, though her chest heaved with unsteady breaths. Yes." "You mean it?" he asked, searching her eyes. "Yes," she breathed, voice soft but firm. He smiled then, a small, genuine smile that made something inside her bloom with warmth. "Then we'll take it slow," he murmured, "step by step. But know this, I'm not going anywhere. Elena, not now, not ever." Her heart squeezed at the intensity of his words. She had spent so long alone, so long guarded herself from desire, from risk, from love. But now, she felt something else entirely. Hope, excitement, the thrilling, terrifying possibility of letting herself feel again. She started, then faltered, unsure of how to articulate the torrent inside her. He leaned closer, patient, not rushing, letting her find her words. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "Just be here, with me." Her lips curved into a small, hesitant smile. "I will," she murmured. He squeezed her hand lightly, eyes dark with something raw, urgent, tender. "Good, because I don't want a night to end either." She swallowed, feeling her heart soar, her pulse quicken. "Neither do I," she admitted. A silence settled over them, not awkward, not empty, but heavy with unspoken promises, fragile desires, and a budding connection that neither had expected. Outside, the city hummed softly, distant and dim, but inside the car, time seemed to suspend itself, holding them in a delicate, trembling universe that belonged only to them. He let his thumb continue brushing against her hand, slow, comforting, grounding, as if the simple contact could anchor them both. "Elena," he murmured, voice low and reverent, "I don't know what tomorrow brings, but tonight, I just want to be with you, right here, right now." Her chest heaved, a soft warmth spreading through her as she nodded, letting herself finally surrender to the moment, to him, to the possibility of something new, fragile, and breathtakingly real. And as their hands remained intertwined, their breaths mingling in the quiet, tender night, she realized something she had not felt in years. She felt alive. Elena felt the warmth of his hand still resting against hers, a quiet, steady heartbeat she could feel in every pulse of her own veins. The night had become a universe suspended between two people, fragile yet impossibly alive, filled with tension, longing, and an electric thrill neither of them wanted to break. Outside, the world moved on in its usual indifferent rhythm, but inside the small cocoon of the car, time had slowed, letting them breathe, letting them exist in a shared moment that neither had imagined possible. He turned his head slightly, just enough to let their eyes meet again. The way he looked at her, dark, intense, soft, almost reverent, made her stomach twist and her chest ache with an unfamiliar, delicious tension. It was more than attraction, more than desire. It was recognition. He saw her, the real her, with all the layers she had tried to bury, and he hadn't flinched. He hadn't judged. Instead, he had opened himself in return, offering a vulnerability she wasn't used to seeing, let alone receiving. "Do you know," he whispered, his voice low and husky, "that the moment you danced today, the moment I realized who you really are, it changed everything for me?" Her breath caught in her throat. "Changed everything," she echoed, barely above a whisper, afraid to give the words the weight they deserved. "Yes," he said, leaning just slightly closer, their shoulders brushing in that magnetic, undeniable way. "I've spent months trying to pretend I could stay professional. I told myself I wasn't allowed to feel any of this. But seeing you tonight, Elena, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. You're the most extraordinary person I've ever met. And I can't stop thinking about you." Her fingers tightened around his, a small, subtle motion, yet enough to convey all the emotion she kept locked inside for years. She had been afraid of letting herself feel, afraid of the pull of someone like him, the kind of man who commanded rooms, who carried the weight of success effortlessly, who made hearts race simply by existing. But now, she realized that fear was only a shadow of what could be if she embraced the possibility before her. "And what happens now?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with hope and fear intertwined. He smiled faintly, a crooked, tender smile that made something inside her bloom with warmth. "Now," he murmured, "now we take it one step at a time. But know this, tonight has already changed me. You've already changed me. And I don't ever want to go back to the person I was before I saw you dance. Before I saw you alive, courageous, radiant, and undeniably you." She swallowed hard, words catching in her throat. The truth was, she didn't want to go back either. The moment she had stepped in the car with him, the tension, the teasing, the unexpected dare that had begun it all. She had felt something awaken inside her, a spark she thought had long been extinguished. And tonight, as she looked at him, feeling the steady warmth of his presence and the weight of his sincerity, she realized that spark had become a flame. "Do you really mean all of that?" she whispered, her voice fragile yet hopeful. He reached across, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek in a tender, intimate gesture that made her pulse spike. "Every word," he said softly, eyes locked on hers. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You've reminded me what it feels like to care, to feel deeply, to want, and I don't ever want to lose this. I don't ever want to lose you." Her chest tightened, tears threatening to spill as the intensity of the moment washed over her. She realized she had been holding back not because she didn't feel, but because she hadn't found someone who made her feel safe enough to let it all out. And now, here he was, not demanding, not rushing, simply present, patient, and wholly devoted to the fragile, trembling heart she had tried to protect for so long. She began, then faltered, overwhelmed by the depth of her own emotions. "I've spent years afraid to want, afraid to hope, afraid to trust myself or anyone else." He squeezed her hand gently, leaning closer, voice a soft, reassuring murmur. "Then let me be your safe place," he whispered. "Let me show you that wanting feeling, hoping it doesn't have to hurt, that it can be beautiful, thrilling, and real." Her lips trembled, but she nodded, a small, tentative motion that held more promise than words ever could. I want that," she whispered. A slow, breathtaking smile spread across his face, dark eyes shimmering with emotion. "Then we start now," he murmured, leaning in just enough that their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, hearts beating in a syncopated rhythm that felt almost miraculous. "We start here, together, and we'll see where this goes. Step by step, moment by moment. And I promise, I'll never let go." Her pulse raced, chest heaving, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. Not from sadness, but from the sheer intensity of the moment, the beauty of vulnerability shared, the thrill of connection finally embraced. She had longed for someone who could see her, understand her, and care for her in a way that transcended superficial attraction. And now she had found him. Their hands remained intertwined, fingers locking like puzzle pieces, and she allowed herself to fully feel the heat of his touch, the softness of his gaze, the quiet but powerful declaration in his presence. The car felt like its own universe, a sanctuary of intimacy and warmth, untouched by the outside world. He tilted his head, eyes searching hers, and whispered, "Elena, I don't care about the past anymore, about what was lost. What matters is right here, right now. You, me, us." A tear slid down her cheek, and she brushed it away with the back of her hand, smiling softly despite the tears. "Then, I choose us," she murmured. His lips curved into a radiant smile, and he leaned forward slowly, capturing her lips in a kiss that was soft, deliberate, and infinitely tender. It wasn't hurried. It wasn't reckless. It was a promise, a silent vow that spoke louder than any words ever could. Every careful movement, every lingering touch, carried the weight of emotion and desire, the thrill of new beginnings and the comforting certainty of safety and understanding. When they finally pulled back, foreheads still touching, breasts mingling, she realized she had never felt so alive, so seen, so cherished. The fear she'd carried for years, the fear of wanting, of hope, of being vulnerable, was slowly dissipating under the warmth of his presence and the sincerity in his eyes. "You're incredible," she whispered, voice trembling with awe and emotion. "More than I ever imagined." "And so are you," he breathed, a reverent smile curving his lips. "I've spent years building walls, protecting myself, but you shattered them without even trying. And now, I don't ever want them back." Her chest tightened with a thrilling mix of exhilaration and tenderness. She leaned in again, letting their lips meet in a gentle, lingering kiss that was equal parts passion and promise. The world outside ceased to exist, the distant hum of cars, the city lights, the passing pedestrians, all irrelevant compared to the universe they had created inside the car. Pulling back slightly, she rested her forehead against his, whispering softly, "I never thought I'd feel this alive again, that someone could make me feel this way." He smiled faintly, brushing a lock of hair from her face once more, his thumb lingering on her cheek in the most intimate, careful way. "You've always been alive," he murmured. "You just forgot how to let yourself feel it. But I see it now. I see you." Tears slipped freely now, but they were tears of joy, of relief, of longing finally met and embraced. She laughed softly through her tears, a shaky, breathless sound that made his heart ache with tenderness. "And I'll never let you forget it again," he promised, voice low, husky, full of conviction. "Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. You're mine in this moment, and I want to be yours, too, if you'll let me." "I will," she whispered, voice shaking, heart soaring. "All of me." A rush of warmth, thrill, and devotion filled the space between them. Their hands remained entwined, fingers locking in a perfect, silent bond. Their foreheads stayed pressed together, breaths mingling, hearts thrumming in synchrony. For the first time in years, Elena felt untethered, unafraid, and utterly alive. She had found someone who could see her, truly see her, and love her for every fragment of her being. And as the night stretched on, holding them in its quiet, intimate embrace, she knew, without a doubt, that this was just the beginning, the start of something magnificent, breathtaking, and eternally unforgettable. The kind of love that would consume, protect, and transform them, carrying them through all the moments to come. With a soft, joyful laugh, she pressed her lips to his once more, a kiss full of promise, desire, and a future that neither of them had dared to imagine until this night. And in that kiss, in that moment, everything they had feared, lost, or doubted melted away, leaving only the undeniable truth. They had found each other. The story didn't end here. It was only beginning, an endless, thrilling journey of hearts entwined, souls ignited, and a love that would shine brighter than anything they had ever known. And in that truth, in that embrace, they both knew one thing for certain. Their lives, forever changed, would never be the same again.